Bitcoin, we alleviate all of that, and you don't need a bank account. You can be anywhere in the world. So it's cash in, cash out, and that's what our service is all about. It's leveraging Bitcoin in the background to just make remittances a lot cheaper and easier to use to affect mainly the 1 billion people without bank accounts, and that's definitely a key audience for us.
So I guess the message is, how do fund managers in the investment industry, how do they tap into that? How do they receive money from these people? What does it mean for intermediaries? It's quite an interesting conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess a big point here is about decentralization and how that's coming to the fore with crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending, using Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself is decentralized. There's no one entity, unlike a PayPal. There is no company that's controlling Bitcoin, so it's anyone can go and use it. So I guess the opportunity for many people in traditional markets is there is other avenues to find opportunities. Opportunities can present themselves from anywhere. And it doesn't matter where you are, and people can contribute, they can pay each other, they can lend each other money a lot easier than they had before. So I guess it's all about the access rails in a number of different countries as well. Making that easy, you can reach your financial products into places that you couldn't otherwise do. And mainly I'm talking about many sort of emerging markets in Asia, in Africa, South America, that sort of thing. It's being enabled by this sort of decentralization that's happening around the world.
Awesome. Let's see. Let's go to Jakarta. Thank you for that, George. That's Hong Kong. Now in Jakarta we have Sajid Rahman. Sajid Rahman, you are an angel investor. You are a VC investor. You work with entrepreneurs all day long. We'd like to know what you think about this P2P connectivity and how it's affecting the world. You work with investors directly. What have you seen change?
I think it has completely the new landscape. There are 2-3 trends which are mega trends, so to speak. This is impacting all aspects of how we live. One is, people in general like to take more control of the future. Whether you see it in citizen journalism, whether you see it in finance, whether you see it, with the Bitcoin that George is talking about, people like to take control. So the first angle of people taking control is to take control of the destiny of the investments. The big difference between a P2P lending or a crowdfunding compared to a traditional investment is that it's a very active hands-on investment where an investor can actually impact the destiny of the company and vice versa, obviously the destiny of the investment. So I think that's a very, very big trend happening. There are regulatory, on the regulation side, this is something which is evolving in markets. Some markets are quite advanced. The Jobs Act in the US is opening up a huge source of wealth, which will go to a significant extent to the private market. The second thing that needs to be understood is that a lot of wealth creation is now happening in private market compared to public market, because more and more companies are remaining private for a longer time. So when that happens, then obviously, for a good return on the investment, people will go into private market. So that's the other thing that's happening. And in markets like Indonesia or Southeast Asia, where we see a huge future for the mobile penetration for the people, 100 million plus people who are practically on all the time, that opens up a huge opportunity for peer-to-peer lending.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Sajid. Let's go to Jerusalem now. We have David Mark, and David Mark is, I like to call him, he's the true crowdfunding maven. This man is living that dream. He's helping micro entrepreneurs get up to that level before they can actually start talking to real investors. David, you've created a platform for that. It's an interesting model. I think you're one of those people who are really solving one of the biggest issues that we have, and that is, how do those small, tiny entrepreneurs get the attention of the investment community? You just get them to the point where they can get that attention, right? What's your view on all the changes we're living today?
I think we spent a lot of time this past year consulting with equity crowdfunding platforms around the world. One of them is here, Crowd. We spent a lot of time behind the scenes with small ones, larger ones. We're seeing a trend. And so early on, it works very nicely for Western startups. You put you raise $200,000. Essentially, the platform becomes the fund manager itself. and then trusted or vetted startups get funded. But what's happening, I think, in the emerging markets is essentially it doesn't really work like that. I mean, as it is impact investing, it's very tough sell for some person investors. And then you put a platform where in the middle of that, it lengthens the funnel for investment even more. So what we're seeing, especially in Africa, is a lot of these startups with great ideas, they're driven. They just don't have the initial funding for MVP already there. So we feel that the best thing to do in terms of create an ecosystem on the ground in these places is to inject small money in the beginning through a sponsorship and equity. Test certain startups. The ones that do better will grow. They'll build their MVP, build a user base, and then they'll be ready for real angel investment, which will also ultimately be done through our platform down the line. But yeah, there is a big gap between what I would say microfinancing, which is anywhere between $5,000 to $50,000, to where angels are coming in, or angel funds are coming in at $500,000, $200,000 overseas. And just these startups aren't ready for that in emerging markets. Another interesting thing is it seems clear to me that because there's infrastructure challenges in these countries, these places, the crowdfunding model actually works much nicer than a traditional finance model. Whereas you'll see, let's say, any equity crowdfunding platform in the West, or the developed countries, you'll have a tremendous amount of institutional money coming into those platforms. Whereas, any deal can be 10 or 20% crowdfunded. Our institutional funds come in and back that up. Let's say Africa, for example, you're not going to have that kind of leeway. But we will have people that are used to alternative payment gateways, like M-Pesa and other cryptocurrencies, and that already creates an ecosystem on the ground that crowdfunding can be adopted much faster.
Awesome, thanks for that. That's insightful. See, that is a big game changer. Peer-to-peer lending and crowdfunding are probably some of the fastest growing industries in the world today. Let's go to Bangalore to my friend David James. David is a real entrepreneur. He's a converted banker. You are now solving some really serious problems. You are, I don't even know how to describe you sometimes. You are so out of the box, but you turn, you use biomimicry to turn plants into wood and all those kind of things. You have some amazing ideas also about new currency formats and things like that. I'd like to pick your brain here together with the audience and see what you think about the peer-to-peer connection, how it's transforming our world. What do you think, David?
Right, thanks. Well, what I do is basically take anything which grows out of the ground under your feet to replace wood, concrete, and steel. But I want to speak to you really as my experience as an entrepreneur, as a recipient for funds and what challenges I had. And once we've made excellent progress. I'm based in India, which is a heavily regulated environment. And what I have noticed that with a population of 1.2 billion people, about 600 to 650 million people have no access to it. Experience having been my startup is really so rural and agricultural focused. The 650 million people have no access to funds. Now, 650 million people is a multiple of the entire European population.
Absolutely.
And it's entirely cash, and in most cases, it's barter. So one of the things which has emerged in the past 3 months are what I would call electronic currency rather than cryptocurrency, which allows you to basically pay using a smartphone. The smartphone market is growing faster than the financial markets. And as a technologist, I can actually see how technology is going to drive the use and the flow of capital to rural people who have no bank accounts, who have no education to actually even sign their name, but they can access a smartphone. So this is a very critical development which is happening out in India, and I would request my audience to seriously consider what I'm doing and pay a visit to India. The second important development which is happening in peer-to-peer market is something very similar to the alternative investment market out in London, or the crowdfunding. Because India is very regulated, what's happening is the government of India has allowed crowdfunding platforms to start up in India about 25 days ago. That regulation is in box. Nobody has taken up that up, and it's a huge opportunity because you're now looking at funds, what I would call just below the impulse purchase of say between 25 to 35,000 small platforms to fund startups between 500,000 to $1 million. Now, I think this is the beginning of something big because you have the government now saying blessing it. And I think it would be very interesting if somebody starts a platform like this in India to actually facilitate the crowdfunding mechanism in India. And I think that's my 2 cents worth from an entrepreneur's perspective. And I think this it's a huge, huge market. So that's all yours, Joe.
Thank you for that, David. It's enormous. 650 million market and growing. Let's go to Ethiopia. Let's go to Addis Ababa. This is Yared Haile Mexel. If you want to do business in Ethiopia, that's your man. He is the man in Ethiopia. So there you are. There's about, I think, 100, maybe 80 people looking at me right now. So Yared, you are in a very interesting place. It's growing off the chart. What is the reality for you, for the entrepreneurs in Ethiopia, the people you're trying to help launch Access Capital? What is the role of all this peer-to-peer connectivity, all this technology? Does it play a role, and how is it going to change your world?
Thank you, Baldwin. It's interesting. I lived in UK for 20 years, and when I came back about 2.5, 3 years ago, back in Ethiopia. There's quite a lot of opportunity in Ethiopia now. At the moment, the economy has been growing more than 10%, 10.9% sort of thing in the last 10 years. So the image is changing. There's quite a lot of investments coming in. But subject related to this subject, there's 2 types of investments. Primarily, the private equity funds, which we've been trying to help, is they are the big size, middle to big size investment sort of thing. They are not for green, field the startup. And then those are the things that they, because they due to the short 5 years exit strategy. So they are focused mainly primarily on what you call it privatization of government institution, and which we have been helping a big institution. But a lot of entrepreneurs who have got very good idea, very good business plan, they don't find funds. Locally, there is no. The banking system is very, at early stage of development, so they will focus on, collateral and all that thing. Idea hasn't got that much value. So crowdfunding is going to open a huge opportunity for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who can have a very good idea, and then it's not that boxed into what's called the private equity sort of thing, either medium in terms of size of the business, or small, medium, and sort of thing, big investment, or sector, they're not sector specific. So crowdfunding is going to open a huge market because there will be a lot of interest for, because it's directly accessing to the people, and then there's people to people connection. Now we've been working with Baldwin with one particular project which is very interesting, on a tomato farm. This guy is entrepreneur making a lot of investments of his own part of money. But now he is wants to scale up on the second stage. So, but it is going to take agreements, things which is ready, and then hopefully we will be closing very soon the first crowdfunding funded project in Ethiopia. It's a 200-hectare land, tomato growing, offtake agreement with Heinz. All these things are lined up, but due to the size, the private equity funds did not be interested. Due to lack of collateral, banks not, getting into these things. But it's viable business. So it is a new, maybe it's going to be disruptive technology, particularly for Africans. We don't have the institutions, we don't have the banking, we don't have the angels investing, we don't have the private equity funds. So just like as mobile phone leapfrog the whole infrastructure need for African communication, from no phone to now, you go to 700 kilometers in the desert in Ethiopia, there is a mobile phone. The nomadic guy has got mobile phone access, and he can make a call with a solar charger and so on. So crowdfunding probably will leapfrog a country like Africa and the early stage of development to have access to finance, global access to finance, and then make something out of sustained development.
I got to hard stop you there, but thank you. You're right. It's going to transform Africa. It is transforming Africa. We can learn so much from Africa when it comes to technology. Just visit Nairobi for a couple of days. It will blow your mind. Do we have time for questions? Is there? Yes? Does anybody have a question for my friends over here? All right. We're going to bring the microphone over there.
Is it working?
Can you hear him?
Can you hear me all right?
Come stand here, maybe. It's better that you speak to the microphone so they can also hear what you're saying.
Do I speak here? Can you hear me now?
Analog, right?
They're loving technology.
Yeah. So if you talk that way, they should.
All right. Great. So this is a question actually for this gentleman and actually for the audience. So I'm the co-founder of Syndicate Room, which is a crowdfunding platform in the UK, one of the leading platforms. And the gentleman from Jakarta, which sorry I didn't catch your name, but you mentioned Sajid, you mentioned the impact of the investors on the business and how they they sort of lead how the business is going. But actually, what we're seeing in our case is not the impact they want to have on the business, but it's also, or particularly, the freedom of choice of choosing what their assets, what their money is being invested in, and which companies they are helping, rather than shaping how the business is going. They choose which companies they want to back, based on the social impact, based on impact investing, rather than shaping how the business is actually going to do on the ground. How do you see that? I mean, this is probably a question for all of you, but how do you see it evolving as it evolves and leaves alternative finance to become a lot more mainstream and to actually, include the assets that these guys hold to invest in the businesses in your respective geographies?
Okay. We can only have two of you answer that because we got to run on the clock here. Okay, guys. So Gene first, I guess, right? Because go ahead, Sajid.
Yeah, by the way, I'm a regular follower of Syndicate Room. I think it has a much more, better curated deal than Crowdship. But saying that, going back, exactly. I completely agree. The fact that an investor can choose which company to back is, rather than putting into a fund where the asset manager decides where to invest, is a key differentiator. The way we see this evolving going forward is not only back the company that the investor wants, but also to be able to contribute to the growth of the company. Of course, if you're going through a syndicate, then the option will be limited. But if you're going through more direct angel investments, then the option is higher. I think that's where the big difference the crowdfunding compares to the typical investment is.
All right. Anybody else want to provide an insight to the question?
I think we're witnessing a few of the different platforms we've consulted with. We've also prepared that for our platform as well. Before we launch, is that there's usually two different streams. Investors want to, educated investors want to have a choice in terms of where they place their money, but a lot of traditional investors that aren't accustomed to angel investing, let's say if it's a startup or not dealing with a non-fund, prefer to actually trust the platform itself to make their decisions. So we're still seeing this sort of balance take place. Anywhere from a few of the different platforms we've consulted with, from Health Funder to our crowd, all have two different options. They have an option where you can invest in a particular startup, or if you don't have enough time to do the research yourself, you can place money in the fund on that platform and with that decision how best to use your money. So we're still seeing this kind of balance take place. I don't see it going anywhere right now. Real estate crowdfunding is very much like that, by the way. Picking an investment and putting in, that's more straightforward. But still, in terms of young companies or startups, we're seeing this this traditional approach, but using the platform where we'll put money in and it's diversified for them amongst an array of startups.
Thank you, David. Marius, you are back. Where were you? We lost you there. This is Marius. He's in Johannesburg, South Africa. He does business in his limousine all day long, right? Marius, you're in your car again. Marius helps entrepreneurs go to the next level. His business is called Next Level, and XTLVL. Marius is helping people in Southern Africa institutionalize their business, get it into shape again so they can access finance. We haven't spoken to you yet, Marius. Could you give us 2 or 3 minutes of what your view is on the role of P2P technology in your corner of the world? Can't hear you, Marius. Can't hear you. You might have to turn off your mute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Loud and clear right now.
Can you hear? Okay, lovely. I think it's important to understand that that if you look at peer-to-peer lending, it is usually associated with startup and early stage businesses. I think that's important. When I listen to David and I listen to Sayed and the other David and George, the early stage startup guys usually have a major issue with capital and financing. And what we do is basically creating the link between the funds and funders and guys that want to get capital into these businesses. And what we do is we de-risk those businesses and get them investment ready. I think it's a major problem that we have with startup businesses is that although it's great ideas that the guys have, usually those businesses are not ready for capital, whether it's late stage venture capital or early stage private equity, and that's what our business is doing. But we see that there's a major trend. I think I agree with Sajid that there's a major trend where people want to get control and they want direct access to business opportunities in these spaces. But they are very risk averse. There's guys that have a lot of risk. They don't want to take risk, and our business is there to actually de-risk those business opportunities for them.
Thanks for that, Marius. I think you're right. I mean, you can have all the platforms you want, but if the people on there don't know how to actually convey and convince investors, it doesn't go anywhere. So the work you guys are doing is pretty important in that equation. Let me see. We have a few more minutes left. Is there another question from the audience? Right. Yeah. So because I don't know if they can hear you through the speakers, you sort of have to direct your question there.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your insights. I've been a manager researcher for many years, and it occurs to me that there's probably a need for some consolidation or standardization of the opportunities, many of which don't get to a broader crowdfunding market. How do you see the evolution in that respect in terms of actually promoting the opportunities, which are very diverse, to a broader market through your portals? Is there a need for some more common standards? Is there a need for more independence and pushing some of those opportunities forward?
Thank you. Who wants to have a stab at that?
I'll have a go at that.
Okay.
So, I guess in terms of do we need some sort of standards or something like that to better present these opportunities, I think if we make the market easier to be accessed, so it's more open, we'll have entrepreneurs come in and fill the gap. If there is a need for people to be presented with opportunities, someone will come up with an idea to do that for them. So I think it's all about how do we enable more of these, grant easier access to some of these opportunities. So many of the guys are talking about peer-to-peer in different markets, and in the case of Nairobi in Kenya, you don't need a bank account. You can send money to someone else via a mobile phone. So being able to access finance is getting a lot easier. So it's all about linking those different ways that we already have to access finance. And I guess entrepreneurs will come along and see if they can fill the gap with something. I guess what we do with cryptocurrency is we sort of see that as a real sort of way to onboard all of these new opportunities. If anyone with a mobile phone can have a bank account and can do exactly the same thing as they can with a bank, well, that's a great enabler. Now we have a lot more people able to present opportunities, a lot more people able to go and fill the gap, come up with new ideas. And yeah, I think it's all about sort of thinking all of these sort of disparate things around the world, and you know, what's the best way to do that? Well, I think the jury's still out on that, but if we keep it open and if we keep sort of foster the entrepreneurship, then someone will come up with an idea to do it. You know, many of the gentlemen here have ideas for those sort of things. So, yeah, I think if we continue on the current trajectory, it's looking pretty good.
Awesome. Any other reactions?
I think 2 points. Typically the typical fund, how they can relate to crowdfunding or P2P. So what's happening, we have seen quite a few public funds actually allocating some of their resources to P2P lending. So that as an asset class is developing very fast because of the sheer return on that space. So that's already happening, and I think some of the foreign funds are already moving to that extent. In terms of the crowdfunding, where when you actually take equity in the company, what we're seeing is quite a few funds. So for example, AngelList runs a separate fund, where some of the traditional funds are already investing on those. So there is already happening, some integration happening to that extent where the existing funds are allocating some of the resources either to P2P land portfolios or to crowdfunding portfolios. In terms of the complete integration or one moving to the other, I think there is still some way to go. There has to be some sort of regulatory framework around that.
Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. This exceeded my expectations. You were all great today. The technology worked, the sound worked, and I'm having nightmares about last night, but we did it. But this is still very analog. I want to give you, to finish off, I want to show you what the future is really going to be like. Maybe we're going to do that next year if we're allowed to. Well, I'm going to show you something that happened early in June. It's amazing. Do you know Tony Robbins? Tony Robbins appeared on a hologram in Melbourne while he was in Miami. So maybe next year we'll all be sitting here in a holographic form. Gentlemen, I'm going to turn on the screen share as well because I want you to see this. This blows my mind. So here we go. And I'm putting a plug for Tony Robbins. This is the future, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like real, right? Can you imagine you visiting your clients like that? Scheduling a meeting in the Taj Mahal with your best clients? Can be done. Think about the following. Tony Robbins in the room alone. What a character. It's probably one of the best stocks you can buy today. They're in Toronto, in Canada. ARHTV, amazing company, but they're making it real. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Let's give a big hand for our speakers today. You're all ahead of us in time zone, so have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for this, and let's do this again soon. The more I talk to you guys, I think we should just put together a business. We should all be in business together for real. We'll change the world together. Okay, thank you.